Rihanna is textbook definition of what it means to know exactly when to move away from a career, even if you are at the very peak of that industry. Actually, I'm going to take it a step further and say she understands what it means to walk away from an industry, especially when you're at the very peak of it. What a lot of people want to do is walk away from an industry or transition when they are starting to lose momentum or things are not looking as good anymore. But she really got to understand why it is important to walk away when the momentum is still high and when everyone is still talking about you. In this video, we're going to be looking at her overall strategy and how she's been able to fully just dominate these two completely different spaces and why she did it at what I consider to be the very peak of her career. This is a person who hasn't released any studio albums in as long as we can remember, but still gets tons of accolades in her industry. She is now a multi-billion-dollar entrepreneur. She's one of the richest Black women in the world, and she's still one of the most decorated singers in the world. It just makes you start to think about why she decided to move away from the music industry at such a pivotal point in her career, and how you can use her strategy as sort of a blueprint to double down on your branding and your rebranding and just whatever transition you're in your business. This video is going to really show you exactly how to do that and how Rihanna has done it so beautifully. To start, I want us to go all the way back. She was born on February 20th, 1988 in Barbados, where she primarily kicked off her career until she was 15 years old. When she was 15, Evan Rowe just found her while he was vacationing. He just was blown away by how much of a star power she had and how talented she was at 15 years old. And so he did like an impromptu audition for her, took the tape from that audition and sent it over to Jay-Z, who was the president of Def Jam at the time. Jay-Z listens to the tape, brings Rihanna over to his office and says, "You're not leaving until you sign this contract. I'm bringing you onto my record label."
I was like, oh, work ethic, everything is there. So we signed it that night. We didn't let her leave the office.
Really?
The 3 in the morning was when that contract got signed. So from the meeting around 3, 4 in the afternoon, we signed it by 3 in the morning.
Wow.
That day, I was absolutely certain.
Now, there's been a discourse happening on X lately where people are like, well, you probably shouldn't be keeping a 15-year-old in a building, stopping her from leaving until she signs a contract. That decision was her first introduction to the Hollywood space and just the sort of things that happen in Hollywood. She has gone on to talk about this in a couple interviews about how she sort of signed with Jay-Z. I think it's interesting, but this was her major breakthrough into Hollywood and sort of her discovery into just the music industry overall. But what's even more interesting is that this story right here doesn't stop here at all, because if there was an originator of the term industry plan, it would be Rihanna. When she first came in the industry, everyone was convinced that she was manufactured by Jay-Z. It was just another case of everyone thinking she was brought here to become a mega superstar. It wasn't a matter of how talented is she or how versatile is her song or her sound. It was, she is brought here to become a superstar and there was nothing we can do about it. But over time, you would notice that with her career, she really wanted to prove people wrong. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. Like, she wanted to make sure that people really got to understand her sound and understand her versatility in the space and prove to people that she was here to stay. She was the original definition of an industry plan turned mega superstar. Her debut single, Pun the Replay, in 2005 became an instant sensation and just an international anthem. It was blending reggae and dance pop influences, and it was just a fresh sound to just the typical hip hop or pop space in Hollywood at the time. So it immediately caught a lot of people's attention. But then some people started to have the critique of her being a one-hit wonder and not being able to potentially sort of develop that sound. And this was where we started to really notice her transition in the industry, where she constantly wanted to reinvent herself. Every album was something new. Every single was a fresh sound. You could tell that something she wanted to prove is that her hard work is what gained her place in this industry and not the fact that anyone is putting her on. And we saw that in just how she went on to release album after single after album, after music video, after appearance, after stage performance. It was always something with her. She was constantly on the news. And that brings us to her very first album. This album came so quickly following her signing with Jay-Z that people simply just could not take it very seriously. People thought it was a cash grab or just another attempt to position her as a superstar in the industry without really refining her tune or how she sounded or how she sort of appealed to the audience. But then it was the second album, which followed literally just a few months after that in 2006, that really solidified her space in the industry and started to get people to really pay attention to her tune and what she's talking about. The album marked her evolution as an artist, featuring hits like SOS and Unfaithful. It was a masterpiece that finally showcased just her vocal versatility, but it really solidified her space and built that sort of groundwork for her global reach. However, it was her third third album that transported her to mega superstardom. I'm talking Umbrella. I mean, the wave and cultural impact that that song had and how it changed the access of a lot of people's lives is unbelievable. She went on to, in fact, win her first Grammy from that album and specifically from that song. And this was when people started to kind of give her flowers and see her as a pop star and a pop music superstar. That's why I find it so interesting when people sort of have mixed opinions about Tyla being compared to Rihanna, because when you do look at it, they have a very similar trajectory in the industry and just how they're being perceived in similar times in their career. That's a whole other video that I can do talking about that. But when you do look at the breakdown of Rihanna's career in comparison to Tyla's, very similar, very similar. Fast forward to her 2009 album and just her overall 2009 era, because this was where things changed for her dramatically, by the way. I can't say it enough. This girl really was working year after year after year. I'm talking album after album, and just the diversity and versatility of her albums were just really beautiful to experience. There is EDM and rock and R&B and just reggae, sultry music, dance pop. It was always something new and fresh with her, and this ability to keep things fresh kept the audience on their toes at all time. Like, what is she gonna drop next? What is she doing next? That consistency with her was very pivotal in helping her sort of move her career to the next level. And in 2009, we got Only Girl in the World, we got Rated R, just some of the biggest hits you can think of were dropped around this era. Not only was she given this level of consistency with her studio albums or singles, she was also given music videos and appearances and interviews and stage performances consistently on the news and consistently on everyone's lips. And around the same time in her career, she got with Chris Brown, which these two people, it was a disaster. But if anyone is able to sort of turn a terrible story or a bad situation or bad press into the biggest transformation of their career, it is Rihanna. Which brings me to the next part of this video, which is the flaws of Rihanna that we do not talk about enough. She is not a saint. She comes with her flaws, and something that is very beautiful about these flaws is that people have been able to sort of see that as a reason to fall in love with her even more. We have literally seen this girl cuss people out on Twitter, cuss out celebrities. I mean, how could we forget her very infamous exchange with Ciara? Ciara said, "Trust me, Rihanna, you don't want to see me on or off the stage." And she responded and said, "Good luck with booking that stage you speak of." Diabolical. Or when Kendall Jenner said, "If Rihanna doesn't perform Complicated tomorrow, I'm gonna be very upset." And she said, "Well done, Con." She's even been in comments responding to people. Someone said, "That attitude is why we want to make America great again. You want to cheat to win. So disappointing." And she said, "LOL, when y'all stop burning ballot boxes, come check me." She is not afraid to speak her mind, and this has further solidified her space in just how people are able to relate with her and see versions of themselves in her, which speaks so greatly to the sort of community she's been able to build around her brand, where people can follow her wherever she goes, regardless of whether it's music or it's entrepreneurship or whatever it is that she does. People simply just love to follow her, and they love to listen to her and hear her perspective on things. And so she was really very quickly able to build such a following of people that seems almost like a cult. And I hate to be the person to do this comparison, but this is where you sort of see the difference between the Beyonce of it all versus the Rihanna of it all, where it's such a thin line between relatability and authority, but as long as you're able to have a good balance of both, you would always be able to sort of speak to very different, varying classes of audiences, where Beyonce, for example, can only ever be seen as an authority where people almost cannot see versions of themselves in her enough to relate to her or take her seriously when she tries to sell a business or sell a hair product, and they just cannot see that she is in fact using those products. They are not able to believe it. They don't see it happening, and it also doesn't help that she is not really seen ever really talking about it or using it in her everyday life, versus if you would go to Rihanna, where even though people see her as an authority in the industry, they're still able to see themselves in her and relate to her. They're able to sort of believe her more and see her as the girl next door, but also the girl next door who is a billionaire. That thin line between relatability and authority, where people can be close enough to be friendly with you, but respect you enough to see that you are seasoned in the industry. This is the sweet spot you want to be in when it comes to building a community around your business and really connecting with your audience. And we have seen this woman do it so brilliantly and mastered the art of of connecting with your audience at a level where they feel like they are more than just a number in your business, and like they can really truly see a version of themselves in you and in whatever business that you're doing. By the mid-2010s, her presence in the industry was completely solidified. At this point, everyone knew she wasn't going anywhere, and she knew that she had already dominated the space enough. She had gotten every award you can think of. She had performed on every stage. She had millions and millions of followers. At this point, she didn't have anything to prove. It was around this time as well she released her Anti album, which I personally think is one of her most artistically creative and explorative albums. And then she disappears. How do you go from being at the very peak of your career, just performing on the biggest stages with a fan base that people will die for, to completely disappearing and just not releasing any albums? In 2017, we got our very first introduction to Fenty Beauty, which disrupted the cosmetics industry with its emphasis on inclusivity and just the diversity and range of their releases. People instantly knew that she had a multi-billion-dollar venture in her hands, and she did not waste any time at all in reinventing that and milking it for every last drop of its worth. Right off the bat, she offered 40 foundation shades at launch, which when I think about it, it's mind-blowing that up until 2017, that was simply just not even a possibility. But she did that, and she did it so beautifully and created a new range and diversity that we had never really experienced before in the industry. And so this in itself was a way to immediately mark her spot and solidify her place in that industry, where with the type of community she had already built around her brand as a music artist prior to this time, going from music to beauty was an instant success. And say what you want, but this would have been the same level of success that she would have had with whatever industry that she decided to transition to, because she had been able to, prior to this time, build such a solid relationship with her audience and her community, where they immediately felt seen, represented, and heard by her decision to venture into something completely different. And even in that process, you can see how she still kept them as the forefront of this process by releasing 40 different shades. It doesn't get more inclusive and diverse than that. And this was already what she represented anyway, and the type of community she had sort of built around herself this entire time. It always was a diverse, inclusive space where people were not afraid to speak their minds or disrupt the space or bring in something completely new that no one was really talking about, or share a different perspective to things, or give people a different opinion about things. And so it made sense to see her do this again with the beauty industry and mark her space the second she got in there. 40 days later, she made $100 million with that launch. Unbelievable. She went on to create Savage X Fenty the very next year, and then very recently released Fenty Hair. And when you look at even the consistent visits on each of these websites, we're looking at over 200,000 daily website visitors. And that is by far one of the most groundbreaking, mind-blowing Hollywood entrepreneurial success we've seen, at least in the last decade. What she's done so beautifully is really understanding the power of building a community around your brand, which I talk about this all the time, but looking at the trajectory of her career, you can kind of see how she never compromised on that connection with her audience, where even till this day, we've seen her go to event after event, influencer event, engaging with her audience, connecting with them. This is a multi-billion-dollar business owner who doesn't even have to release a single album again till the day she dies, or release a new product again till the day she dies, but she still allows herself connect with her audience, go meet them where they are, let herself relate and interact with these people, and let them consistently feel reminded that they're not just a number or just another follower or another buyer, but people that she actually cares about and connects with. And it doesn't come off as pretentious, because she has always been doing this. This is who she's always been. Whereas with other celebrity-owned businesses, where they come out just right around the launch or right around a new product or a new album, they connect with the audience, and after the media rounds are done, they go right back in. But with her, it's a very consistent system of connection, and so people don't feel threatened by it, or do they feel targeted by her. It's organic, and it's genuine, and it's consistent, and it's just real and authentic and in the moment and in real time, and it never ends with her. And she's always been that way. She's never been afraid to be that way, and this is why we see such a craze in everything that she does and whatever industry that she dabbles into. It's kind of the same thing we're seeing with TikTok now, where with the ban in America, a lot of the creators we have on there, regardless of how major they are, and this is regardless of whether TikTok in fact gets banned or not, I don't know about that, but if it does get banned, a lot of the creators on that platform, regardless of how mega they are on the platform, will never be able to duplicate that level of success on any other platform. It's kind of the same thing we saw with Vine, where some of the biggest creators on Vine, we completely we stopped hearing about after the platforms went away, or that after that platform went away, they disappeared with the platform. And that is because if you are on a platform simply because of what the algorithm might prioritize for your content instead of prioritizing what the audience wants from you or what the community wants from you, you will disappear with the platform, because you would very quickly realize you cannot duplicate the same strategies on completely different platforms because they have different algorithms. However, if you prioritize your community and build a community around your content and put them first in every content that you share, you will be able to take them wherever you go, and you will be able to duplicate that in any industry and duplicate that on any other platform. They will be loyal to you and they will follow you wherever you go. This is what she's done so brilliantly, and understanding when to pivot and when to move and transition in your industry and your brand, whether you're at the very peak of your career or you're slowly starting to get to the peak, it's okay to move. It's okay to transition. And if you have a loyal community and if you've built that relationship with your audience, they will go with you wherever you go. I created a step-by-step guide to help you build a vibrant, engaged community around your business, all in 60 days. You can check it out and use it for your business. The link is going to be in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you on the next video.